What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the ever-charming Dr. Disaster, and Wizards of the Coast might actually be about the worst offender in terms of a company that absolutely insists that they will remain as woke as possible.
What's wrong with me?
My first thought would be a lot.
As an example, here is the head of Magic the Gathering, the flagship property of the company, quadrupling down on making sure they hit their diversity quotas, because that is what seems to really matter with these people. So, with that in mind, it really wasn't a surprise when, a week or so ago, we learned that this company decided to hire into their new video game studio skeleton key the self-proclaimed queerosexual gendermancer Corrinne Busche.
Oh, goody.
In a sane world, it would be very surprising that this person saw another opportunity like this at a major AAA studio, considering that this is the same person who directed Dragon Age the Veilguard, which was one of the biggest flops from the past few years. The game will end up being a loss of many millions of dollars for its parent company EA as a result of all the weird gender and sexual stuff that they added into the game, which drove many gamers away. You'd think that nobody would have the stupidity to hire somebody who produced a game like that.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Well, we knew that the studio that Corrinne Busche was being hired into was making a new D&D game, but what we don't know is precisely what that game is supposed to be. But this article from That Park Place actually lays out a compelling case that our worst fears may be coming true. With Larian Studios no longer working with Wizards of the Coast, it seems that the people who ruined Dragon Age the Veilguard are in a prime position to apply their garbage philosophy in game development to Baldur's Gate 4.
No. 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 Hell no. No.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you smash the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, and also, don't forget to give me a follow over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster 1. But anyhow, Baldur's Gate 3 was obviously just about the biggest release of this decade so far, selling an estimated 30 million copies in its first couple of years. It is absolutely wild that, after the success of this game, Wizards of the Coast decided to move on from Larian Studios. But everything that company does is asinine. Wizards is run by a bunch of people who do not understand the IPs that they own. They don't understand why people like this stuff. Among us Magic the Gathering players, the company is regarded as a bunch of people who don't really think about the long term. They're always focused on the here and now, trying to squeeze every dime out of their IPs as fast as possible with no regard for what the fans actually want. With that in mind, let's read this article from That Park Place, which I will be linking in the description. It's no secret that Wizards of the Coast and Larian Studios didn't exactly part on good terms after the release and successful launch of Baldur's Gate 3. The signs are evident. Larian Studios had already begun early production for Baldur's Gate 4, only to suddenly cancel the project. While the exact reasons remain undisclosed, it's reasonable to assume that monetary disagreements or corporate interference played a role. After all, Larian Studios CEO Sven Vincke made a scathing speech during the Game Developers' Choice Awards, where he openly criticized corporate greed and its detrimental impact on creativity. He stated, Greed has been effing this whole thing up for so long since I started. I've been fighting publishers my entire life, and I keep on seeing the same mistakes over and over and over. If we read between the lines, this could very well have been a subtle message aimed at their former partners, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, possibly hinting at why Larian chose not to develop a sequel despite the immense success and acclaim of Baldur's Gate 3. And yes, I think this article is understating what Vinky said quite a bit here. This absolutely describes Wizards of the Coast to a T as a greedy company. Once again, if you guys didn't know, I'm a big Magic the Gathering player, and Magic players have been complaining about Wizards of the Coast for a long-ass time now. There were a whopping 10 Magic sets released last year as they try to milk us for all we're worth. For perspective, the norm for a long time was 4 sets per year. Typically, when a new set comes out, serious players have to drop at least a couple $100 in order to keep up. So yes, describing this company as a greedy publisher seems perfectly apt. Anyways, let's read on. It's worth remembering that Sven Vinky was the backbone of the Baldur's Gate 3 project. There have been long-standing rumors that Wizards of the Coast had little idea what to do with the Baldur's Gate IP. Initially, they reportedly showed minimal interest and only handed it to Larian as a quick cash grab. However, once Baldur's Gate 3 became one of the most beloved and critically acclaimed video games, at least in the eyes of many, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro seemingly began interfering in future plans, asserting more control over the decision-making process. This ultimately removed Larian from a position of near total creative freedom, which had been key to Baldur's Gate 3's success. As the saying goes, the moment money shows up, everyone wants to be in charge. After Larian Studios ended its relationship with Wizards of the Coast and reportedly moved on to develop its own new IP, rumored to be a sci-fi RPG, Wizards of the Coast began looking for new developers for its Baldur's Gate sequel, but from what we've gathered, that process didn't last long, as it seems they decided in the end, along with Hasbro probably, to create a subsidiary game studio, Skeleton Key, and have Baldur's Gate 4 developed in-house. Now, of course, it's not confirmed that Skeleton Key will be the studio developing Baldur's Gate 4, but let's not kid around. Archetype Entertainment, another subsidiary studio, is already developing a game called Exodus, a sci-fi action-adventure role-playing game. And you guys might remember, I actually covered this game a couple months ago. It's being made by a bunch of developers who made Mass Effect, the old Mass Effect games that were really cool. And these same people fled BioWare before that company turned to shit. So, I have at least some hope that Exodus won't suck, but I digress. Archetype is working on Exodus, and as the article says here, there seems to be very little chance that any studio other than Skeleton Key will be the ones to develop the Baldur's Gate sequel. The article then goes on to explain how actually Corrinne Busche wasn't just hired on to Skeleton Key as a developer, but was actually brought on as a game director. So basically, what we're seeing here is that the director of one of the worst performing AAA games of the past couple years is being handed the reins to just about the most successful game from the past couple of years. And all because, once again, Wizards of the Coast just keeps recommitting to the woke progressive crap. What will be interesting, though, is how this commitment to gender ideological nonsense that we saw in Dragon Age the Veilguard, it'll be interesting to see how that manifests itself in Baldur's Gate, a game where players already had unprecedented control over how their character and choices in the game popped up. I'm not sure how the Gendermancer can screw this one up for people, but I am sure that if it's possible to screw it up, the Gendermancer will find a way. So yeah, at this point, knowing that Skeleton Key is pretty much the only studio that we are aware of that could be working on a fourth Baldur's Gate, after all, it was announced that they're working on a D&D game, but yeah, I think it's safe to assume that the game is Baldur's Gate 4, and I can't help but wonder how many sales that will cost Wizards if this is indeed the case. I don't know what will happen, but I do know that this game has the potential to be a major inflection point in the culture war when it drops. But I'm going to leave it there. Drop your contempt for the greedy companies like Wizards of the Coast who wear progressive causes like a skin suit in order to virtue signal to all the poor suckers out there. Drop your contempt for all that into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.